Hello, so welcome to this video for COMP3218, Game Design and Development at the University of Southampton. My name's Dave Millard, I'm one of the lecturers on the course, and I'm here with...
My name's Adrian Chapman, another lecturer on the course. This is the feedback and marking for our very first coursework, in which we've asked the students to, using a core dynamic, create a tutorial and a set of levels that showcase this core dynamic.
Brilliant. So let's have a look at our first game, which is called Through the Light.
Through the Light.
So I'm just gonna adjust the volume a little bit so we can hear each other properly. There we go. Right. Okay. So here we go. We've got a nice little menu screen. With start and quit, so there's no separate tutorial, so hopefully it will be integrated in. Here's our first screen.
We've got 30 coins.
What do you think I should be doing? Shop to start, presumably?
Let's try it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a kind of an opaque screen to begin with. Shop. Left mouse to attack. Left mouse to attack. Oh, okay, but there's some sort of weapons thing I can upgrade. Click the left mouse button to shoot, press tab to switch weapons. And I've got a fight button, and I've got a buy button. Do you think my coins are dollars? Do you think that's how it works?
I'm not sure, but you don't have enough either way, do we?
Well, let's try.
But try buying it.
Nope, so I don't get any feedback from that. So, okay, so a little bit of a kind of a difficult start, but let's try clicking fight and see what happens. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So, press left, right arrow keys or AD to move. So let's do that. Right, press space key to jump.
No weapon yet. Ah, you've got some coins.
Oh, okay. So if I come up here, there we go. Yeah, so my coins are going up. Do you think I can jump on the snail? Is that a thing? Yes. So...
I like that over on the right-hand side we have a slightly better view of the maze, so you can see a map effectively of where you are.
Yeah, the mini-map up there in the right-hand corner. Yeah. Right, so now I've started the game, it's still, the music's still quite loud, so I'm going to actually mix it down again. Where are we? There we go. There we go. Turn it right down so I can actually hear what I'm doing. Alright, so that was interesting. So I came across an enemy and I jumped on it. It does say jump on the enemy to kill it, and also it was kind of down here in this pit. So be careful, it hurts. Oh crikey. So
it definitely hurt. You lost a life. But
do you think it meant to do that to show me the consequence of touching like that? Right, let's go for it.
You've learned that from both the top and the bottom. Somehow you lost. I'm not entirely sure why.
I think I jumped back on the spikes. So, alright, so
see.
You know what we're doing now? So we've got some of these. Oh, I kind of went... I knew that was coming and I still got hit by it. So, if you tap, it kind of sends you quite a long way. So that's why I keep losing on there, because I keep jumping onto the spikes. So, alright, I'll try and not do that now. Right, so let's see if I can avoid these spikes up here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did that enemy ever come back? Did you jump on it again? I missed it this time.
I jumped on it, yeah. So.
You did, okay.
Right, here we go. Right, jump. Oh, so yeah, it's the what was that? Pick up the health. Okay.
Wonderful, you got some health.
So it's kind of introducing different bits to me, which is good.
And you needed that health immediately after you went over those spikes because.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the kind of the windmills in the background. That's quite.
Yeah, I wonder why there was grass on that. I wonder if the world's going to turn over.
Yeah, you can now kill all enemies. Pick up the speed shoes to move faster. I don't know if I want to move faster. I already was struggling a little bit with the. Okay, so more enemies to jump on. They've been quite generous with that jump box, and if you've noticed, I'm very bad at jumping at enemies, and it's quite It's quite forgiving, which I like. Right, touch the blue light to enter the next level. Okay. So, alright, so they're in...
How do we get the gun now? Because now you have enough coins for a gun.
Yes. Restart, next level, return. Yeah, I don't know. What should we do? Next level?
Let's go to the next level.
So, okay. So, there's a settings button. I wonder if that... No, that just lets me fiddle with the audio.
Oh, you can do audio.
Yeah. Okay. So so I've got now this. Oh, so now we're kind of combining stuff. I've got the little spikes with an enemy. There we go. And similarly, kind of. I presume I can jump on that still. There we go. And
a flying enemy now. Oh.
Flying enemy. Yeah.
And you've also got some.
Oops. So.
Bees, hornets, angry hornets.
So I can't jump up there. Oh, okay. So if I restart, does it restart? Yeah, it restarts the level. They have learnt that we are no good at this.
I actually think we should start moving through some of the
go for it.
Criteria about this. We can start talking about just general quality. So we have some criteria that we are looking for in this. The first large subsection is quality. And one of the first things we'll be looking at is, are there any bugs? How are they doing on bugs? From this side,
yep.
It doesn't look like there are a huge number of bugs. It looks like occasionally they have some problems with like the edges of assets and where the spikes actually end versus you. I'm not sure that's entirely a bug.
Yeah, I think that might be deliberate, just to be kind of a bit more forgiving.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot going on, but the only problem I'm having really is the controls are a little bit sensitive. But other than that, I think it looks to me like it's working okay. It's relatively complicated as well. It's not an overly simplistic thing.
Are we in the category that the game is playable and is reasonably complex? There are no obvious bugs.
I think so. Yeah, that sounds right to me.
That's in the excellent category. Now let's actually talk about those controls. So you actually said that there was some problems with the controls. One of our other categories here is gameplay mechanics and controls. So we're looking both at the mechanics that they're producing and the usability of the controls that you're experiencing.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out.
A lot of mechanics.
Yeah, they've got quite a lot of stuff going on. They've got kind of coins to collect. They've got spikes. They've got different types of enemies as well, including flying enemies. They've got collectible power-ups like that health. They've got the shop, although we haven't figured out how to get to the shop. But oh, that's exciting. They've got the little mini map going on. So yeah, I think they've got quite a few mechanics happening, and they kind of all fit together. And I like the way that they've combined them. Like here, for example, I've got an enemy over the spikes, so I can kind of leap on the enemy to get over the spikes. And the same here. So in fact, my solution here is to walk off the end and kind of bounce off the enemy. So I think that's nice. They've got things in the game that they are recombining in new ways to give new experiences.
Right.
And that works well.
So let's talk then about. So I agree. The mechanics look like they actually have a nice wide set of very complementary mechanics. The question then becomes: do they also have intuitive and smooth, usable controls? So,
in general, I'd say yes. I'm finding it's a little bit finicky to jump. I'm not quite sure whether that's just a little bit of the jump setting. So if I jump and tap, it's not always clear quite how far I'm going to go. That might just be me, but I caught by falling spikes. But yeah, in general, I'd say the controls are pretty good, and I feel in control.
Right.
Just not very good.
In this case, excellent is a wide set of complementary mechanics and intuitive and smooth usable controls that lead to enjoyable and meaningful play. Do we think we're there?
I would say we're kind of erring on the side of that. We're kind of what's the one below? I guess that's the good level.
So good is a set complementary mechanics and smooth, useful controls that lead to meaningful play.
Yeah, I think
So
we're
the difference here is, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. That sounds kind of where we are. I'm definitely playing it. It all seems to kind of make sense. All the mechanics go together well. Maybe halfway between the two to reflect the way that they've combined the mechanics in a nice way.
I like that, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, we need to actually talk about the presentation of information, the design and aesthetics. So we can start looking just at satisfactory that key information is shown with consistent graphics and some audio effects or music.
Yeah.
Good takes us up to key information is shown clearly, graphics are consistent, and appropriate use of audio and music. I do think they actually have consistent graphics. The one thing that I am struggling with here in terms of their information is how to get back to that shop.
Yes, that's true. I figured out what my problem is. So,
Yes.
by the way, on the control scheme, is that you keep moving after you take your finger off the key. So if I move across and I go release now, there you are. Just so that's the problem. That's what's making the controls feel weird. So your character kind of has momentum. Sorry, I interrupted you, but I was kind of like it's been bugging me as to what it is. Yeah, you're right. The shop's kind of odd. There's a lot going on. I presume that kind of yellow square is for whatever I put in the shop.
I think so. I think that's your inventory.
Yeah. But otherwise the health's very clear. The level thing is very clear. Mini map kind of works.
Yeah. What happens next time you die if you hit return? Can we get back to the shop that way?
Good idea. So if I hit return, so I had 209 coins there. I've still got 209 coins. That's interesting. Right. So let's. Well, shall I buy the? I'll buy the basic gun first. Or I can buy both actually. So
You can own them both.
Yeah. So like I said, I can hit tab. There we go. So how do you think I fire the gun?
Spacebar.
No, spacebar's jump. Jump on the enemy to kill it. Was it left mouse button?
Oh, it could have been.
Yeah, left mouse button, I think. I'm actually going to go back and see if it. I'm going to go back and see if it tells me. I think it might have said here, left mouse to attack. Now that's interesting. You press the left mouse button to shoot and tab to switch your weapons. I own both of those things. So I can... there we go. So I can definitely hit mouse to attack. So the weird thing is that I don't have enough arms because I'm supposed to use space to jump. I can use the WASD to move, and I've got to put my right hand on the mouse button to fire.
Yes.
So that's a bit odd. It's not necessarily a good... I think it's okay to have alternative controls for mouse and keyboard, but if you're going to mix them up, you have to think very carefully about it. But anyway, let's see if having this actually helps me a little bit get through the level.
So while we're talking about this and we're actually looking at information design, I've actually, between the interplay of the shop and we couldn't actually figure out how to, we got the information about how to shoot, but not when we needed it.
Yes, that's true.
Paying attention. I'm not entirely sure that the key information is lining up nicely with.
It's not. Yeah, it's not bad. It's just a little bit. It's a bit of a mixed bag, isn't it? It's kind of spread around a little bit much. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, crikey!
So
that's interesting.
Are we at satisfactory, where key information is shown, consistent graphics, some audio, or key information is shown clearly, graphics and audio are consistent and appropriate use of audio?
So we didn't mention the audio. So there is a nice soundtrack. I'm getting sound effects for all of my interactions with the environment. So that's really nice. So I think probably the graphics and the audio are probably up at definitely up at the good range, and maybe it's just the information design. So maybe halfway between the two.
Yeah, I think so. Let down a little bit by kind of the information design.
But in general, I think they've done a good job.
Right. So let's start talking while you're playing about the level design. So we've asked them in two different categories. We're going to be talking about just level design in general and tutorial design. So let's actually talk about the tutorial since you're on the next level already.
Yeah.
Since you're in the beginning. So the tutorial itself, we start with Around Good is a mostly integrated tutorial that communicates most goals, risks, rewards through level design, and then introduces information and mechanics in a logical way that fits with what has gone before. I would argue that everything except for the gun.
Yeah, the gun is odd because it is kind of useful. There's one or two of these things that I've been able to get past which I couldn't get past before. But generally speaking, it almost feels like it's not really needed.
Yeah. So before we started playing with the gun, the tutorial level, they put you in a pit where you had to address the enemy, that you had to jump on it. They showed the falling spikes that kind of really hurt your health. And then they immediately gave you a potion that showed you if you picked up the potion, you got better health. Yep. Or you got a point enough. So in general, I actually think that they had a fairly integrated tutorial.
Yes.
That showed risks and rewards in a logical way.
Yeah, I think so.
They fell down. I would say, excellent would be an integrated tutorial, but I feel like they don't quite make it there, mostly because of the gun.
Yeah, I think so. And that's one of the mechanical bits that doesn't feel integrated. But yeah, and I think you're right. They've got things like the prompts for the controls are within the level, so that works quite nicely. It's a slight shame that the gun feels like it's completely overlaid on it. It's not even that they don't explain it when you get it. They don't explain it at all. It's kind of, and that there's nothing in the design that kind of, really requires it. Or I guess it makes it easier, but yeah. I think I'd agree with that.
So let's go talk now about actually the level design. So in this case, a good is a sensible level design that demonstrates a number of mechanics with good pacing and some clear goals, risks, rewards.
So my first thing would be about pacing, because this level is substantially harder than the previous level, and that might be their intention, because I haven't actually managed to finish this level. We don't know if there's another one, so maybe they just wanted to kind of make this a particularly challenging level. I don't know, but I kind of feel like I was handhelded through all the different things, all the different mechanics and interactions, but I've then not received a kind of a nice pacing curve where I experienced them gradually.
Right. So are we maybe somewhere? So satisfactory at this point is a sensible level design that demonstrates some of the mechanics with an attempt at pacing and some goals, risk, reward. Now, I actually do think they do risk and reward really well.
There's some going on.
In terms of they give you several options about you could go up or down. You could choose to collect a health at one point or face an enemy.
Yeah.
So maybe we're somewhere between the satisfactory and the good.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the different routes are, because so if you look down here, it looks to me, for example, like I've got like an alternative route here where I could potentially go up and get those coins, but I can't actually jump up there. It's too high, so I have to come down here. So I guess I can go back and get the coins. I managed to do that before. Hang on. And then there's a route up the top which I haven't explored yet. And I mean, partly it's because just getting through the levels, the pacing of the level is such that I don't really want to find a harder way through. But yeah, so there seems to be routes. There are alternative routes to the level where I can get more rewards. There's definitely more coins that way. Yeah. Okay.
But they're struggling a bit with pacing, so maybe halfway between satisfactory and good.
I think so. I think the pacing is it just feels like they've gone too hard too quickly. And what we needed was a kind of was probably a level between this one and the previous one, where I just had to negotiate all of those things individually, and then this level started to combine them. Was what actually happened is they've all been combined straight away. Yeah.
Now let's go talk about the core dynamic that they have pushed forward. What would you think that their core dynamic at this point is?
Well, it's hard to say really, because they're mixing up a number of different things. So the collection is kind of part of the point, but because you're using the coins to buy weapons, it kind of takes away from that a little bit. So I think they've got elements of destruction, they've got elements of collection, they've got elements of, well, a little bit of puzzle solving, I suppose, which is what you'd normally expect in a platformer. What have they gone for?
Well, that is actually, I think, one of the big problems here is in their core dynamic section, they do not really, well, they don't come through and, they say the game is an escape game, and the goal is to escape from the fantasy world, which is full of danger, by touching the blue light at the end of each level. The core mechanism is a movement system, and there's the two features of the core mechanism of jumping and shooting. So I think part of what you're getting in the muddle that we couldn't identify what the core mechanic here, or the core dynamic here is that I don't think they actually really identified it particularly well either, and so you're getting this muddled game.
I think that it is true that your goal is to kind of escape the level, but that's kind of not where the gameplay is really. The gameplay is in negotiating this level. It's collecting the stuff, right? Sorry, evil.
So if we look at, we have a problem here in terms of a core dynamic that is a poor match for the game, for the theme of the game, and or is supported by only some of the mechanics and audiovisual choices.
Yeah, it kind of. So what have they? So they've kind of gone for an escape. I mean, part of the problem is that we've only actually successfully escaped once, right? And that was from the tutorial level. So there's kind of it feels like that's not my main engagement, right? That's not mainly what I'm doing. I'm mainly engaging with this level. I think I would say that it's more of a collection. I don't know. It's sort of half collection, half destruction.
Yeah, I think so too.
There's a lot of emphasis on destroying things, and the weapon emphasizes that. But actually, most of the gameplay is about collecting things. But that's undercut by the fact that that's not really your score. It doesn't restart, for example. So if I restart the level, if I restarted the game, my coins stayed the same, didn't they? So yeah, I think they are all over the place.
So are we at a core dynamic that is not well supported by the mechanics or audiovisual choices, or are we closer to a core dynamic that is a poor match for the theme of the game, and or is supported by only some of the mechanics and audiovisual choices?
Yeah,
somewhere between those two.
Yeah, I think somewhere between those two. I mean, I don't think that they're kind of that they are fighting against each other, but it doesn't completely ruin the experience. So it just feels to me that they're misaligned, and that therefore it feels vague and like you're not quite sure what the main aspect of it is.
Agreed. So as part of this too, we asked them to present their game to us in kind of its early phases, and they are given feedback, and we asked them to articulate to us the feedback and their responses. Yep. So they have here 4 pieces of feedback that they were given and their response. So the first bit of feedback is that the player's operations in the game can be added to make the game more playable. And the response is, in the previous presentation, only operators key for a player was click the left mouse button to jump. And so they were using jump to collect rewards or coins and avoid enemies. Yeah. And so then it's obvious they did start changing and adding things so you could press space to jump and then kill enemies by jumping or by shooting the bullets. So this is one where they heard the feedback, but I'm not entirely sure that the choice they made. So one of the problems we've had with this game is this gun.
Yeah.
They heard it, but I'm not sure the choice of solution was
No.
actually a good one. So their second bit of feedback was the tutorial part may not have to be designed as a single part. Please get rid of big blocks of text describing the operation and let users try to play by themselves to learn.
Okay.
So their response is they designed a tutorial in level 1 where they describe each operation with a prop and a trap in a sequence with brief words, and that is limited. So I actually think that they did this really well. I liked that they broke down the actions, and you had to do an action before you kind of really moved on.
Yeah, that definitely worked. So I know we definitely noticed that at the beginning. And it wasn't overwhelming. It introduced them nice and sequentially. Yeah, I think they did a good job there. Oh no!
The third piece of feedback was the increase in the difficulty of the level can involve more factors besides increasing the enemy's movement. And their response was they implemented more mechanisms, for example, the ground thorns, the falling traps, the turrets.
Yeah.
And they increased the type of enemies, including flying, and guns, and mobs with guns, and it looks like there's a boss at the end of the last level, which we have not gotten to.
Right, that might have helped with the pacing a little bit, but
it might have.
Let's find out.
Through this, so there's not the pacing is still not correct. So I think they heard it. I think they articulated it well. I think they made some good changes. I have a feeling some of the changes, because it all went in one pot, it might have affected the pacing. So I'm not entirely sure it was a hugely successful implementation of some good changes.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think they kind of a bit of a mixed bag. Yep. So
the fourth and final bit of feedback is the game should concentrate on one core dynamic. And in this case, interestingly, they canceled a rule which the player was forced to collect items to survive. And they focused the core dynamic on escaping and made collection a supporting dynamic. And that's interesting to me because I actually think they heard the feedback, they articulated it, and in this case they adjusted it in a way that I think hurt the game. So I think you and I have been feeling that this is very much a collection game.
Yes.
And if they concentrated on that one as a core dynamic,
although it sounds like they were also it sounds like they were doing some additional stuff with a survival mechanic or a survival dynamic, I should say. So actually, it does sound like they have got rid of that. But yeah, so it sounds like they started off by literally putting it's the end. I made it to the end. So it sounds like they literally threw the kitchen sink at it to start with. And then actually they did take some bits out. But yeah, they just so I think the problem is they haven't gone far enough. We've got a new mechanic now. We've got a bouncy ball thing. There we go.
So I would say that the feedback was articulated and some changes have been made with partial success.
That sounds right to me, yeah.
Okay. Alrighty then. I think it's time for us to move on to another game.
I think you're right. So I feel kind of bad because I haven't been able to explore this level, and it would have been nice to see what they've done. But I one of the things we said is you have to playtest with people who've not played your game before. And I think if they had, they would have realised that the difficulty ramped up very quickly. And I imagine that they played this game quite nicely, but it just does show you that you need to play test with a variety of people. But I like it. There's a lot of stuff going on. I think it's a really competent platformer. So great. Okay, let's go to the next game.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next game is Delivery Truck. So I've got a nice menu screen. Tutorial play quit, so I guess we go into the tutorial. Welcome to Delivery Truck. Use WASD buttons to move, pick up supplies for the market, and it's disappeared. I think it said and deliver as much as you can. Try not to collide with walls, you lose health. I've got time left in the top left-hand corner, which is I'm going to run out of any second. I've got a certain number of supplies collected, and I have a score.
And it looks like you ran out of time. You didn't drive anywhere. Drive faster, Dave.
Yeah. So okay, I've collected a thing. So did I have to deliver them somewhere, or was I just collecting them?
Yeah, I just see collecting. And it
right,
looks like
has a time doing it.
To the right, there's a little timer. I wonder what that little clock on your right does.
So, yeah, so I've got a little mini map, and the mini map's quite cute because it shows where the things are.
Without
I see.
Roads.
So I went round a big loop, and I got an extra thing, but okay. So let's not do that this time. Let's go. Oh, it said left was quicker, but right. So we're up here. So am I supposed to go there? No, that doesn't do anything. That's the because I haven't collected anything. It says supplies collected 0. Have I really not collected anything on the way?
I think you on this particular one. I don't think you did.
Ah, okay.
All right, now you've got some.
Now I got 2.
All right, now go deliver them.
Left is the shortest. Right is. I don't quite understand that choice. I'm not quite sure what I get as a bonus. Alright, and then I somehow, how do I deliver them? Crashed.
Run into it.
So I tried running into the building, so maybe I'll have to run into the actual pin.
I think try running into the pin this time.
So I go this way, and I get 4. Didn't I get the same if I go the other way?
I think on the other way there's a clock as
well. Okay, I'm here. How do I deliver?
Yeah, I don't know. Your score is now 9. Did that happen when you hit or did that happen in some other way?
That's a good question.
So
let's have a look. So my score becomes 9 as soon as I pick up a thing.
Right, you now collected 2 things and some health. You've got a score of 9.
So I've got 4 again. I'm back up here. Deliver.
What's that menu button? Is there a menu button over there? Oh, I see. It's just getting you.
Oh, do you think it's just it's not collecting because I've got to the end of the tutorial? Let's click play and see.
Let's try and play.
So there's the thing to deliver. So if I pick that up.
Alright, so go back and try to deliver it really quickly. So you've got a score of 11 right now.
Score 12. So I don't know if you noticed that the icons are a different size in this. The score is smaller, my health is smaller.
Yeah, the map is smaller, everything's a lot smaller. I'm still not seeing why you would bother delivering something.
Or even how I can deliver. So I keep ramming into things. I'm not quite sure. So if I also think that there's a problem where it's not quite clear what I can drive over and what I can't, right? So it looks like there's things which are pavements, but I actually ram into them. Like there.
Yeah.
So that's slightly odd.
Okay, Dave, really, you should not be driving on the pavement anyway. Let's get this straight.
But I've got. Oh, actually, no. It says supplies collected 0, so I collect 1 and then go there. So I wonder if it doesn't end, but it just sort of resets what I've delivered.
Right.
So.
I wonder if at some point you can't collect anymore, if you get full in some way. But
so
that was not taught during the tutorial.
Yeah,
was it?
there you are. So I collected something, and now my supply's gone down to 0, and it looks like my score's gone up. So that's what's going on. So you get score for successful. There you go. My score's gone up by 1 because I've delivered 1.
Yep, I see it now.
And if I hit reset.
Okay. Now this type of exploration should have happened during the tutorial session, where it's very clear I do this and then I get that, and this is how they all interplay, right? We shouldn't have had to do this in the game itself.
And also, even the timer, it was odd having that as a choice in the tutorial. You'd expect the tutorial to make me go through the timer, and as a result, we go, oh, thank goodness, that's how I get extra time. That's useful. So if I back up... I also find it odd that... So I've actually tried to deliver, and I've just crashed. Because it's still not clear to me where the delivery zone is. So I think that's basically a sort of information design problem, right?
Okay. So actually, this is good. Why don't we start actually talking about this?
Sure.
So in our quality metrics, we've got bugs, we've got gameplay, mechanics, and controls, and we've got presentation, which includes information design and aesthetics.
Yeah.
Let's talk about bugs really quickly. if we consider that crashing over the pavement or not having, a good boundary is information design, I think we're fairly bug-free. I haven't seen anything that leaps out.
Yeah, the only thing I think I would say is that there seems to be some presentational issues between the tutorial and this, but that's a really minor thing. So for me, I would say that's a very minor bug.
Right. So interestingly, they have so if we start just at the satisfactory level, game is playable and is reasonably complex, but there are infrequent serious bugs and/or frequent minor bugs.
Yeah.
Whereas in a good, the game is playable and is reasonably complex. There are only minor bugs, and these are uncommon. So I feel bug-wise, they're up in the good category, but in terms of the complexity, they're down in that satisfactory category.
Yeah, so I mean, if we think about what's going on here, there's the timer, there's the health, there's the collection. I probably agree. I probably agree with that. So between the two, maybe.
Okay. Now let's talk about the gameplay, the mechanics, and the controls.
Yeah.
So they have some mechanics. They have a set of mechanics. They have the timer. They have the delivery. They have a clock that you can collect to give you more time. They give you a heart so that you can improve your health. So they have a set of mechanics and usable controls.
Yeah, the controls are okay. I think the controls are fine. The problem is the design of the map. So it's the information design really, because it's not clear what you can drive into and what you can't, right? So this thing I've just crashed into now, is that a pavement or is it a barrier? What can I hit if I hit? So there you go. So it looks like I should be able to drive over these things, but I can't. But I don't think that's a control issue. I think that's once you know what you're trying to do, actually it's quite reasonable to control. It lacks. So a lot of games like this, you get a lot of fun is from the actual control of the vehicle, right? So it's the original GTA model where if you're going fast enough, you can put the back out, you can kind of slide around corners, you can do all that kind of stuff. You can't do any of that here. It's quite a sort of how do I put it? So it's quite a dull control scheme. So it's not particularly engaging, but it does work. I am playing it. So it's effective.
So I think we are in that we have a set of complementary mechanics and smooth controls that lead into meaningful play. We are in the good category.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think that's right for gameplay. The only thing that the meaningful play thing is the only thing, and the reason for that is I'm not actually quite sure what I'm supposed to be doing. So I collect these things, I drop them off, but does that end? It doesn't end the game. So I've just delivered 2 supplies. Do I have to get all of the supplies on the level? Is that how I progress? What's my objective? So
great. Well, I mean, your time is going down.
Yeah.
Get as many as you can.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually just there, I think we might have identified something that takes us a little down closer between satisfactory and good in that at least it's some meaningful play. We're not entirely sure what the point of the game is.
Yeah, yet. I'm setting my own objectives and then there's meaningful play, right? That's fine. So I think between the two is probably right.
Okay. Now let's talk about the information design. Because I think this is actually where this game has some particular problems.
Yeah.
There's key information. They definitely show. They show health. They show score. They show timer. They show a map. They show the things you've collected.
I mean, the map's quite nice, and it shows you collectibles that are off screen, and that's really useful. So in a sense, the explicit information design I think is okay. The time left is quite clear in the top left. The score is fairly clear. It's nice and simple. The health bar at the top and the health icon, they look the same, so it's very clear that there's a connection there. Big bold icons, all that kind of stuff. So all of that works well. all the problems with the information design, I think, are with the kind of the stuff that's not explicit, the information design in the level. So it's things like, what can I run into and what can I not run into? Where exactly is the collection zone around the collection point? Right? Yeah, it's those kind of elements, I think, that's problematic.
Right. So it does have information that's shown. It has consistent graphics. Does it have any audio going on right now?
Yeah, so there's no sound effects. There is a background track, but it's quite strange. It's a very relaxing piano tune. It feels like I'm sat in a bar in a kind of Far East hotel restaurant late at night. You know.
So you don't have that sense of I must get all of my deliveries now.
No, there's not a kind of thumping soundtrack. So there's no sound effects. There is some music, but I would say it's not a good match.
Right.
It just doesn't quite work.
So it has some audio. So basically, I'm getting that we've got some key information is shown with consistent graphics, and some audio. And
yeah.
So we're clearly, it feels in the satisfactory category.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Alrighty. So let's move on now to talk about the tutorial design and
yep.
the level design. Let's start first, I think, in the tutorial, where we had already identified some problems where we went through the tutorial and we understood how to do the things that we were asked to do, but we did not understand how they interplayed or why we should do them.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. It's the higher level, you know, how the game works in terms of progressing between levels and that kind of stuff. And also some of the choices were a bit strange. So the way that they introduced the timer on a choice, which meant it was entirely possible for me to finish the tutorial without seeing the timer. And although they've put the instructions into the level, which is good, they were still having to explain things rather than showing things. So, you know, a good yes. level design for this would have been just a relatively straight level where I have to get to delivery at the end, but I don't have enough time to do it. But as I'm driving along the road, I encounter a clock, right? And the clock gives me enough time, right? And then it gives me some feedback when I collect the clock. It's like extra time added or something. It comes up in the middle of the screen, you know. So I think they've shown, not told, but they haven't played, not shown. If that makes sense.
Yes. Yes. So it feels like we might have a tutorial that communicates some goals, risks, reward, and that it introduces some information and mechanics in a logical way.
Yes, that sounds right.
Yeah. The next step up would be a partly integrated tutorial that communicates some goals, risks, reward through level design and introduces most information and mechanics in a logical way. And I'm not entirely sure that we're all the way there because we really didn't get why in this case.
No, I think I think that's correct. I think we're kind of a lower down than that.
Yeah. And so let's talk now about level design itself. So at this point, how are we feeling about pacing, right? And does a level bring us through all the mechanics with good pacing and clear goals, risks, rewards? I think that I don't have a good risk reward at this point.
No, partly because it's so partly because it's not clear what our overall objective actually is.
Yes.
So it's like I don't, you know, should I be trying to collect everything? Is that how I progress? So they've tried to put something like that, but in the tutorial level, which is you know doesn't seem quite right. It should belong in here. So you know, so for example, what I mean by that is, in this level there may have been a section of the city which was you know tight and difficult to navigate, but I have to go down there if I want to collect all of the things. In order to put my score up. But at the moment it's not clear whether I do need to collect all of the things, so I can't really make that decision. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of meandering around picking stuff up, but I don't feel like I'm really making any sensible decisions about where to go. So like here, you know, which way do I go down there or do I go up here? It feels like a random decision, not a kind of meaningful one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we might actually be in a level design that demonstrates some of the mechanics, but is poorly balanced and paced with a lack of clarity over goals, risks, and rewards.
Actually, that I think that's right. Yeah, I mean, and it's difficult to tell. It's difficult to tell about the pacing because it may well be that there's other levels that we're not seeing because we don't know how to progress, and that they're a bit better paced. But certainly within what we've seen, I would say that there's no real pacing. It's very much a kind of a flat experience.
Right. So now let's talk about the core dynamic. So they had to identify their core dynamic.
So presumably they went for collection.
Oh well, that's I would agree with you to that the core dynamic is collection, and it's really interesting what they've written in 2 sentences. The core dynamic that I've built in my game is the concept of race versus time. The player's main objective is to collect as many supply boxes as possible.
Right.
And so again, we have somebody who has muddled a little bit in their core dynamic, and so because the core dynamic that they've chosen is not necessarily a great match to the game that they've designed, I think that might be leading to some of our problems about why am I doing this.
Yeah, I think you're right. So I think I can understand why they think it was a sort of a race against time game, but yeah, I mean part of the problem is that it because again your main activity is the collection, right? That's your objective, and yes, there is a timer, but I've got that I can get the power up, and also I don't feel like I don't think I've actually let the time run down yet.
No, you haven't.
And in fact, maybe I should. Maybe that's how we end the level, right? I keep dying because I'm racing around.
Get all your health and don't hit anything for the time.
All right, yeah.
I do feel like we might be in a core dynamic that is a poor match for the theme of the game, and or is supported by only some of the mechanics and audiovisual choices.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. So this very, very genteel audio soundtrack, if it really is a race, why am I listening to something that's quite so relaxing? So I think what you've just said is feels about right.
Okay. So let's move on and look at the feedback that they've provided. So we asked them to get feedback on their game and their response. The feedback was that they need to have meaningful decisions.
Yeah.
So the response was they kept the mechanics very straightforward and how the user interacts with the system. The walkover mechanic is inserted so the player can pick up supplies and earn points when the package is delivered to the grocery shop before the time runs out. Another feedback received was to have some faster routes. As seen in the tutorial, the player has an option to take a shortcut or a long road that has a time limit. Now, interestingly, I saw that in the tutorial, and I don't see it here in the game itself.
No.
The map is too big, I can't remember it, and because the mini-map just has layout, I have no idea where we are in the game right now.
Time's up, score 51.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So it just ends then, right?
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah. So yeah. No, okay. So I think that's why they've inserted it, but they've inserted it in the wrong place. They put it in the tutorial rather than the game. And they, although they have put an alternative route, the reasons for choosing one route over another are not clear. And in fact, because it's the tutorial, they're super not clear, right? Because my objective in the tutorial is not to get a high score. My objective is to learn how to play the game, and then exit when I'm done.
Yep. So I think in this case, the feedback was articulated, and some changes have been made with partial success.
Yeah, I think they may not even quite have got there, actually.
All right, so a little bit below that, feedback was not well articulated, but some changes have been made with limited success. So I think in this case, we're not all the way there. The feedback was articulated.
Yeah, but the limited success is right.
Feedback with limited success, so maybe just a little bit lower than.
Yeah, halfway between the two sounds right. Yeah.
Yep, somewhere between the two. Alrighty, I think we need to move on to our next
Brilliant.
game.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, so our final game is called Time Causality. Oh, I rather like that. Best played with sound on, although I can't actually hear any sound. I don't think. Oh, there we go. Just took a while to get going. So, yeah. Very nice. So, again, I'm just going to turn it down a little bit so we can do it properly. But I rather like this. Really nice, screen to start us off. A bit of advice how to play, some animated figures, some nice graphical effects. Good. Let's start the game and see what happens. Oh,
I'm getting wonderful feelings of Red Dwarf.
oh, here, if you listen. There we go. We are getting some narration.
Wow.
Rather nice. Okay, I like that. So it gives us some clues of how to move. So mouse to look around. Yeah, WASD keys to do all that stuff. And they've done it with us. Started us facing the wall, and it doesn't matter which way around I turn, I see the instructions. And then behind me, yeah, nice. Okay, so they started me in a cupboard, but yeah, nice. All right, so I haven't. Here we go. So, oh, what's going on? Oh, if I look down, oh, I'm a sort of robot thing.
You can see yourself, all right.
Ah, hang on. Space to jump and shift to run. Oh, okay, I rather like this. So over we go, and I can, if I run.
You,
to be honest,
indeed had a jump there, didn't you, to get over that barrier? Let me quickly turn it on.
Oh, okay. So I also like the way that they've.
I'm as much in the dark as you are about what it does.
So I like the way that they've also putting up the subtitles for what's being said,
yes.
Which is always a very good idea. So okay, so I've got jump. There's a sort of a weird red button here. They said he's
push the red button.
So the HUD presumably is the three little characters down the bottom. I'm not seeing anything else. Cool.
It's green now. What did we do?
I don't know. Oh, what does that say? Q. Try pressing Q. See what happens. All right. Oh. Oh. Is it, time causality. Okay.
And one of the little people disappeared.
Oh. So that's me.
Ah.
So okay, so I can see myself wandering around and doing stuff, and it says now press. There's me standing on the button looking confused. So if I press F,
looks like we're back to where we were.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay.
So I can drop a remnant. I can drop a remnant with Q, and then I can reset with F.
Excellent. And the remnant does exactly what you did previously. Lovely.
So now when I do this, it opens the door. So if I move off the button, it closes. So now I know what I have to do is leave a remnant here to leave the door open to go through it, right?
Yep.
That's nice. I like that. So if I press Q, yeah, here I am. So hopefully I should see myself go across and play with the button. And I can make my way through the door when it opens. Cute.
It's very nice. Run.
So and I get my remnant back as well. All right. So I've got 3 of them. I wonder, can I just keep hitting Q and getting more remnants? Well, up to 3 presumably.
Hopefully, we will have to use them at some point in the game, right? All 3 in some
way.
So it looks like you've got 2 buttons here. We might need 2 remnants.
Yeah. Yeah, perhaps. Okay, I will let it teach me naturally. All right, so we'll come over here. There we go. If I do that, and then I hit Q. So while my other self is going to that button, I will come over here. Here we
I'm
go.
going to hit Q again because I think the door is going to open when you guys touch together.
There we go. Uh-oh.
Hit Q. Oh. Did you not hold it long enough? Timing.
I think as it sort of did that open then or not? I couldn't see. I think it did, didn't it? All right. So if I oh, I've done it again. I want to reset. So if I reset, so I come over to this button. I drop off one of my remnants. I don't move. Okay. Yeah, that's quite tight timing, isn't it?
It is.
I come over to this one. Oh.
So while you are playing with this door, I'm actually going to start us by talking about some of the quality of this game. I know it's hard.
I'm gonna be stuck in this because I can't get the timings right. Right, that was the nearest one. So I think I have to wait here in order to let my other self get across the button in time. Okay, that's probably enough time.
So I actually think bug-wise, we haven't seen any major bugs. The game is playable and reasonable. In fact, it's more than reasonably complex, I think. So I think that at this point, the game is playable, reasonably complex, and there are no obvious bugs.
I'd agree. Yeah.
All right.
Very nicely put together.
The question actually becomes, is the game playable and of higher complexity and no obvious bugs? So are we at a higher complexity? Or is it a bug that's we can't actually open this door yet because timings are so tight?
No, it's okay. I think the timing, I think it starts opening while the bar's going down, right? So hopefully it should open in a second and I can go through. There we go.
So I feel like we might actually be in a higher complexity game at this point.
Yeah, so we've not seen that many other mechanics yet. But we're seeing a lot of complexity in design.
Yes.
But I think I would say it kind of, you know, there's some novelty. There's I mean, obviously there are games that use this mechanic, but it's you know, not trivial to implement. I think they've done a nice job.
Excellent. So I think I'm going to put this somewhere between excellent and prizeworthy. Yeah,
I think that's fair. Right, so hopefully I should be able to get through this door.
Ready? The gameplay, how are we feeling on your controls?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, the way it's set out is it's sort of set out as a bit of a puzzle.
Yeah.
So
here's a question at this point. Granted, I feel like we are still actually walking a bit through some of the tutorial level, which they are. It's a really nicely paced. I can't tell if we're in tutorial, if we're actually in game right now, which is excellent.
Yeah.
So down in good, we have a set of complementary mechanics and smooth, usable controls that lead to meaningful play.
So I think we're definitely there.
Yep. Excellent is a wide set of complementary mechanics and intuitive and smooth usable controls that lead to enjoyable and meaningful play.
So I would say I mean, we haven't quite seen it yet. I wouldn't say we'd seen a wide set of mechanics yet, but the controls are pretty intuitive and the puzzles are very engaging. So yes. I think we're at least on the way there, if not there completely.
Yes. So for now, unless we see more, I think I'm going to mark us between the two.
Yeah, that seems fair. Here we go. So here we go. So let's go and activate this and see what it does.
So while we do that, we're going to talk about key information.
Yep.
So key information is shown clearly, consistent, and appealing graphics, good use of audio, effects, and/or music.
Yeah. I think they've done a really nice job. So you can't hear the audio effect, but basically there's a kind of a very subtle audio track at the back, which suits the kind of the thoughtful way that you're intended to play.
Right.
And I think the voiceover for the video for the tutorial was really nice as well. Kind of gives you a little bit of character.
Yep. I love the consistency across how the screens kind of show you what you're supposed to do at all times. Like push this button and it goes down. I think they're using some really nice Well, they're showing it clearly and very consistent. The question becomes, are they doing novel yet clear ways of showing key information?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's hugely novel, but it maybe is getting that way.
I do think they have thematically resonant graphics.
Yeah, they do. The graphics and audio I think are really nice, and I think are kind of exactly what you'd expect. Oh, there we go. Thank you for playing. So I think so I'm a little bit disappointed that they didn't introduce a kind of a new interaction mechanic, and then have it maybe one or two more puzzles where they were using that. So if you don't know what they did basically is they gave me a room where I needed to click a button to open a door. They gave me a room where I needed to do two things at the same time to open a door, and then another room where I had to do three things at the same time to open the door, and then they stopped. Right. Whereas something where there was some other kind of interaction going on, finishing with a slightly deeper puzzle, I think would have been nice. So that's a little bit of a shame, but I very much like what we've seen.
Yep.
So
let's talk actually about. I feel like what we're getting here is that we really are kind of down at a set of mechanics and usable controls at this point. So probably not even not a wide set at this point. It really is a set.
I think that's fair, because we've got two different types of buttons basically.
So let's talk about tutorial at this point.
Yeah, which is what I just started again.
I love the tutorial where it's very much an integrated part of your game, and they back you in a corner, so you have to you actually have to master the skills before you can back yourself out of that corner.
Yes. I think probably that's the element they've done best actually. The tutorial's really nice, and it talks you through it. It's nice and fairly gradual. It introduces you to it's quite a difficult idea to get across to somebody, right? And they do a really nice job. That's interesting. I think I might have to. I tried to do this. I think you have to go through the tutorial stage before it will let you progress.
Interesting.
Let's have a look. So go on here.
So it feels like they have an integrated tutorial that communicates goals, risks, rewards through level design, and that introduces information and mechanics in a logical way that builds on what has gone before.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
So they introduce once, then they do twice, then they show three times, right?
Yeah.
The question is, and I think they just slightly missed that kind of the next category up, because the next category up says does all of that, but then it not only builds on what went before, but it reinterprets what's gone before. So in this case, it just kind of builds. You go 1, 2, 3, and then it's over.
Yeah. So I think the tutorial design's really good. And the problem is the level design. The tutorial kind of introduces the elements, and then that's it. It's like so what they're missing is something which shows those elements being combined. Oh no, didn't quite make it in time. That kind of something which shows those elements being combined in a kind of a different way.
Yeah. So if we're talking about the level design. So interestingly, here's one category: a sensible level design that demonstrates some mechanics with an attempt at pacing and some goals, risks, rewards. The next category up is a sensible level design that demonstrates a number of mechanics with good pacing and clear goals, risks, rewards. And I feel like they have they very clearly demonstrated all of the mechanics really well.
Yep, absolutely.
There's not that many of them.
Yeah.
And that right there is kind of the problem.
Yeah.
So possibly they're between those two categories.
Yes, I think that's probably reasonable. Yeah.
Okay. So let's take a talk now about their core dynamic.
Okay. So, what have they said that it is?
8 said this is a spatial reasoning puzzle.
Yeah. So, yes, I think that's.
I actually think that they got that bang on.
Yeah, I think they have, and there's nothing to distract you. So I was a little bit put off, I guess, because initially it takes a first-person perspective, and you naturally assume that belongs to an FPS, destruction type game. And that was one of the nice things about a game like Portal, right? Is it came along with that aesthetic, but then was a very different type of game. And they've done the same thing. They've understood that's what they're doing. It's kind of nice. So, I think they've done that really well.
Yep. So they are possibly up towards a clear core dynamic that suits the theme of the game and that is well supported by an integrated set of mechanics. How about a clear core dynamic that suits the theme of the game and is well supported by the primary mechanic and appropriate choices, and mostly appropriate audiovisual choices. So in this case, I think their audiovisual is great. So maybe it's a bump up from that, a slight bump up. But it's not. It's coming back to that set of mechanics.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, unfortunately.
Right.
So just to give you an example, so I can run, right? I can press Shift and I can run. And although that has been useful a few times where I've got the timings a bit wrong, there's not been any puzzles where I've been required to do that in order to solve the puzzle. So they actually have a mechanic in the game which they don't use. And you could have imagined other kind of mechanics where the remnants are moved, or you can imagine like a conveyor belt or something where you have to think a little bit more about things. So I think we're well trodden at this point. We know what they've done really well, and it's just that it's just a shame that they didn't go a little bit further with the elements of the puzzling.
Yep. So let's move on to feedback. The first bit of feedback they got was the material they were using for the remnants looked like a hologram. It was difficult to look at.
Okay.
And so they changed the material, the remnants, to a shader, to a different material.
Yep.
I think they actually did a really nice job with that.
Yep, that seems to work well.
The next piece of feedback was to use the level design to slowly introduce the player to different mechanics in the game as an implicit tutorial.
Yep.
And I think they did this really well. That they kind of stopped you before you moved on. So the first button, the first room just has one button.
Yep.
In order to get through that door.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, there's nothing kind of earth-shattering there, but it feels like they've got that feedback and they've integrated it, and successfully.
Yes, I agree. So I think if we're looking at the marks criteria, feedback was clearly articulated, interpreted, and reasonable changes have been successfully made.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty then. I think that ends our session for this COMP3218.
It does. That's great. Yeah. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in another video.